get acquainted with tables and conditional formattings. Now, these look like two small words, tables and conditional formatting, but trust me, there's so much in it to learn, you will be surprised. So this is the learning roadmap. The first is we will learn working with tables and style options, and then we will work with conditional formatting followed by question and answers. Okay, so let's start off with tables first. What are tables in Microsoft Excel? It's not just a normal. Okay, now this is something very interesting. What people do is they think that table is a data in Excel which is neatly arranged. No, that is formatted data. That's not a table. A table is a very powerful feature to group your data in Microsoft Excel. In earlier versions, it was also known as Excel list. The table is a rectangular range of structured data and is given a name. We will go through that in a short while. Now, you may have a question as to why should we use tables? I mean, what's the need? We can simply put the data in a formatted structure and you can use that. So Excel tables are one of the most interesting and powerful features in Excel. Okay, they make managing and analyzing a group of related data super easy. So if you are planning to become a data analyst in the future, you will be using a lot of Excel tables. Now, adding a new record makes the table expand automatically to include a new record. Also, if you're using the table as source data for charts and pivot tables, then if you add data to the table, the charts and the pivots get automatically updated. This is not the case when you use normal structured data range. We will talk about pivot tables and charts in the next video. In this, we will restrict ourselves to tables and conditional formatting. Then the other beautiful thing about tables is something which is called automatic autofill. When you add a record, not only does the formatting gets extended to the new row or column, but the table will also automatically autofill any formulas in the case of row. We will see that soon. If you remember in the last video, we imported the file, but this time we will not import the file, but we will directly open the file using File Open. So click on File, click on Open, browse, and go to the relevant folder wherever you have saved the file. I'm going to my folder and select all files in case you do not see your files and click on Video Game Sales. And you will notice that the data is now in your Excel file. So this is the raw data that we have. To convert the table, to convert the data to a table, click any cell inside the data. Okay, let's do one more thing. Click on the Select All button. This is the Select All button. And then double click on the column partition between A and B or any other two columns and double click on it. So you will notice that your entire data is now fixed automatically. It's an auto set. Right. So now what we will do is, once this is done, then go to the Insert tab. This is the Insert tab, right? And then click on, this is the, what do you call, the Insert tab, and this is the group. If you remember, I explained about this in the last session. So here you have the tables group. So if you take a mouse over table, you will notice that Microsoft tells you that it's a table button and the shortcut key is Control T. Now there's one more shortcut key, which is Control L, L for Lima, L for Lion. Okay, and simply click on this button. You are presented with a Create Table dialog box. Okay, once you get the Create Table dialog box, Excel will by default select the entire range. You'll see these ant-like structures around the data, and you'll notice that the range is also mentioned in the Create Table. That is because we had the selection inside the data. Okay, so once this is done, and you'll also notice my table has headers is checked. So that is because my data has headers. In case you do not have headers, uncheck this. What this Create dialog box will do, it will insert the headers automatically. Okay, now let's go ahead and click on OK. See what happened. We have our table now. If you want to convert the table back to range, so what happens is once you are in the table, you will get another tab which is called Table Design. Click on Table Design in case it is not selected. Okay, now this tab will only be visible when a table is selected. Click on Convert to Range. Do you see this Convert to Range? Click on that. Now notice what happens. Do you want to convert the table to a normal range? I'll say yes. Okay, it is now converted. Now there's a slight problem. The table is converted back, but the formatting is not changed. So if you do not want the formatting to remain, then there are two main ways to do it. First, you select the range, okay? Or in this case, you can click on the Select All button, or rather, since the table is already selected, I'm going to leave it at that. Then on the Home tab, which we are already on the Home tab, there is something, one moment, sorry. Yeah, do you see this clear here? Clear formats. When you do that, the formatting will go away. So this is a two-step process. Okay. The other way is to clear the format first before you convert it to range. Let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to convert the table, convert this range to the table again. I'm going to press Control T and I'm going to click on OK. So I've got my table again. Right. So now I will go to the Table Design tab in case it is not selected. Then I'll go to Table Styles, and you see this drop down here. Click on that, and you'll notice a button which is called Clear. Click on that, and the formatting is removed. But remember, the table is still there. Now convert to range and say yes. So this is the second way to do that. Now let's understand the table design ribbon. For that, I'll have to again create the table. Let me quickly repeat the process. So we have a table now, and this is table design tab. There are a lot of stuff in this table design tab. Okay, so I'm going to take you from the left and I'll cover each and everything. Okay, this is the properties group. Here you will see the table name. So the name of the table is table 3. So Excel gives the name 1 to table 1, table 2, table 3. This is the third time we are creating a table, so it gave a name of table 3. Suppose you have selected outside the table range, you will notice that the table, this thing is gone away. And so what will happen is when you click outside the range, you will notice that the table design tab has disappeared. To get it back, click inside the table and the table design tab will come. Okay, so I'm going to click outside. And now if I want to go to my table, one is to select the table, or if you go to the name box and click on table 3, see, your table automatically gets selected. So remember, if you want to know the name of your table, click on the table and check in the table design tab, what is the name of the table here. Okay, moving on. Below that is the resize button. So what does resize do? So what happens is right now you have this data. So it goes up till, if I press, yeah, it goes till 16,599. But suppose you add more data to it, you can resize this table. Okay, so one moment, let's go up and I'm going to add some data here. So let's say column X, Y, and Z. Now, if you click on resize, when you come here, go to table design and resize table, it will ask you, where do you want the data till? So now it is till K, you can make it till M. Okay, you can also manually select it. I'm just typing it here and you click on OK. See how the table has been resized. So remember, the resize table button is to resize the table. I'm going to press Ctrl Z. I'm going to delete this. Okay. Right. The next button is in the tools group, which is summarized with pivot tables. Now, we are not going to do pivot tables in this video, so I'm going to keep this for a later video, and I'm going to explain how can you use tables and pivot tables together. Okay. The next button you see is remove duplicates. The name is self-explanatory. It means that you can remove duplicates. But what you may not know is that either you can select one column or you can select all columns in the table to remove the duplicates. So like I said, if you want to remove duplicates, it can be based on one column or multiple columns. Currently, our data does not have duplicates. So to test this, I'm going to insert a blank row. So you also do this with me. Click on, let's say, row 15. Yeah, right click on it and say insert. So a blank row will come here. Then copy the second row and paste it on the 15th row. So now the 15th row is a duplicate of the second row. Now ensure that the mouse cursor is, or rather a selection is inside the table, and then click on remove duplicates. When you click on remove duplicates, you get the remove duplicates dialog box. You can increase the size like this. Obviously my data has headers. So I have shown here that I've got headers, and here you have the column names. Like I said, you can remove duplicates based on one column, or you can remove duplicates based on multiple columns. I'm not going to select one column. I'm going to keep it selected as all columns. So now what happens when I click on OK, look at this. One duplicate value is found and removed. So if you look at the 15th row here, where we inserted the YS Sports row, it's not there anymore. It's deleted. So whenever you're working with data, if you want to remove duplicates in a table, this is how you remove the duplicates. Okay. The next button is convert to range. I have already explained that. Okay, so let's move on to the next feature, which is insert slicer. Now, this is a very important button. You will be using this a lot when you're working with tables and pivot tables. Okay, so slices are buttons that you can click to filter tables or pivot tables. They are also used for showing the current filtering state. So if you remember in the last video, I shared how to filter data. So you can filter data using slices as well. And slices, like I said, it will always show you the current state. This way you can understand what exactly is currently being displayed. Now, slices are used a lot with dashboards. So this is one feature, trust me, you really want to understand. So look carefully. Let's go ahead and let's create a first slicer. Every time we are doing any kind of operation in a table, ensure that you have selected a cell inside the table. I keep on repeating this because I've seen a lot of people ask me, sir, I do not see the table design tab. Obviously, you cannot because your cursor is now outside the table. So that table design tab is missing. Ensure you always select a cell inside the table. Okay, so we get our table design tab back. Okay, so we're going to create a slicer and then click on insert slicer. So where all do you want slices? Now I've got 11 columns here, so I can create 11 slices. Okay, but I do not want so many slices. So I'm going to create, let's say, 3 slices. First is for publisher, second is for genre, and the third is for year. And I'll click on OK. So the slices have been created. I'm going to move slightly towards the right, and I'm going to move my slices like this. Okay, and I'll adjust this here. So this is how the slices are created. Now slices allow you the option of multi-select. So if you click on this, it will allow multi-select. If you uncheck this, it will only allow one selection. Okay, let's try a couple of them. So if I want to see, let's say games for Nintendo, or rather, let's say ASK. So I click on ASK. See how the data is filtered. Or Asgard. See? And now when you select this, you'll notice that 1980, 1981, these are disabled. That's because that data is not there. The data which is available is 2010, 2013, 2011, etc. So you can now filter on the year as well. Let's say we filter on 2010. So you click on this. See how the data narrows down. And finally, obviously, there is only one genre in this particular publisher, which is MISC. So there's no point selecting anything here. So remember, slices make your life very easier, and specifically for your top management guys, because they don't have time to ask you questions. They may ask you, hey, Sid, can you create a dashboard for me with the relevant data? And I will play along with it. So once you give them, they'll keep on playing with it. Let's say you have a north, east, west, south zone. They can click on a particular zone. They can go to a particular city. They can see the performance of a particular employee in a particular company. They don't need to come back to you again and again. Okay, so this was slices. Now, let me do one thing. Let me clear everything. And I have my data here. So this is slices, pretty simple. So let's go ahead. The next button is export an Excel table to SharePoint. Okay, so if you click on this button, which is the export button, you will see export table to SharePoint. This option lets you export data from the table to a SharePoint list. Now, this will create a new SharePoint list on the site, and you can then work with the data just like you would for any other SharePoint list. We will not go into this for the moment, as we will not be covering SharePoint for the time being. But if you want to know, Microsoft SharePoint is used by many organizations to create websites. So yes, it's a good thing if you know about Microsoft SharePoint. It is also used as a secure place to store, organize, share, and access information from any device. It could be from your tab, your mobile, your PC, laptop, anything. So we'll not cover, like I said, the export table to SharePoint list. The next button is export table to Visio pivot diagram. This button only shows up in Office subscription product, and also when you have Microsoft Visio installed. Now, Microsoft Visio lets you transform complicated text and tables that are hard to understand into visual diagrams. We will not cover this as well because Microsoft Visio is altogether a different beast. But I doubt you'll be using this as data analyst because most of the companies do not use Visio. Okay, now let's go ahead. The next button is refresh, which is this button. If you click on this, you will notice that only refresh all is active and rest are deactivated. This is used when the table is created by importing data. The refresh button refreshes the connection and then updates the table. Okay, we will cover this in a short while. It's an amazing experiment that I'll show it to you. Let me explain the other features first, and then we will come back to the export button. Okay, the next group is table style options. Here we have 7 options at our disposal. These options are very easy to understand. Let me take you through each one of them. The first one is header row. If you uncheck this, you will notice your header row disappears from your data. So in case you do not want to show your header row, uncheck it. Otherwise, check it. The second is the totals row. This is the beauty of the table. Okay, so if I go to the bottom, right now, there is no totals row. But if you click on the totals row, you will get the totals row. You do not have to manually add a formula to calculate the totals. You will directly get totals row. Now, this is using a function called subtotal. We will cover subtotal in one of the future videos where I'm going to take you through 100 Excel functions. You'll know all of those Excel functions. Okay. The next is banded rows. Now, if you look at the table, it has different colors. You have light blue, white. Sometimes if you select a different design, then these are called banded rows. So if you uncheck this, your data becomes plain. So in case you do not want the banded rows, you can uncheck this. I'm going to leave it like that. This option is first column. Now, what happens is the company may say, hey, Sid, can you ensure that the first and last column, the data is in bold? In that case, you use these 2 buttons. If you click on first column, see how the data in the first column becomes bold. And if you click on second column, the data in the last column gets bold. So let's uncheck this. We don't want this. This option is banded columns. So like we had banded rows, we can also have banded columns. I doubt you'll be using it unless somebody asks you to do it. Because if you do it, this is how it looks like. Not very pleasing to the eye, but yeah, if needs to be done, needs to be done. This button is the filter button. By default, whenever you import data or whenever you create a table, the table will have filters. If you do not want filters, then uncheck this and the filters will go away. So you do not want people to use filter in your report, remove this. Otherwise, leave it. There's no harm in that. Until and unless you are protecting this document. If you're protecting this document, then you'll have to take special care so that they are able to filter it. Yeah, because if you do not take care, then they'll not be able to filter it. Right. The last group is table styles. Now, this is again a very important group. It will let you do so many things with your table. Table style lets you quickly format the table. So if you click on this button, this drop down, you will notice that the styles have been grouped as light, medium, and dark. Okay. And what you can do is, if you like a particular color or a particular format, just take your mouse over it and you will see the table converting like this. So if you like a particular format, just go ahead and select it. Now, I use this option a lot when I'm making the dashboard for different companies, because each company has their own brand design colors. So whenever I'm creating a dashboard, and specifically tomorrow, if you join any company, always keep in mind that nobody has to tell you this. And if you do it on your own, you will be appreciated a lot. Because I also have another company which is into brand designing, so I know this. Companies always want their product to be customized in their own brand colors, brand fonts, etc. So if a company has blue as the primary color, go ahead and use blue. If they have green, then use a shade of green. Ask your peers what color, what style would you want. Okay, so use the colors to make it appealing. You can also use the new table style. This is a really amazing option. So if you click on this, you can create your own style. Okay, and then you can also create your own formats. You can select a particular font. So like I was saying, that if a particular company has a particular font, go ahead, select it here. If they have borders, fills, colors, everything can be selected from here. So go ahead, experiment with this. And so let's cancel this. So this is the table style. Now coming back to the refresh drop down, this is what I wanted to cover. Now for this, I'm going to close the Excel and then I'm going to import the file like we did in the last session. Okay, so I'm going to click on close, don't save, and let's go ahead to data and click on from text to CSV or get data. So in the last session, somebody asked me, I don't have this option. So there is another option from text. So in the old versions, so click on that and then simply select the file and click on import. Click on load and your data is here. Okay, so now if you notice, the refresh all, connection properties, everything is now active. Okay, now let's do an interesting experiment. The year for Y Sports is 2007. Okay, so I'm going to go to that Excel, this file here. This is the raw data. This is the raw data. If you open it in Notepad, you can see this. Here, the first is 2007. I'm going to change this to 2010. I've done this. I'm going to close this and I'm going to save it. Do I need to re-import the data into the file? No. That's the beauty of tables. Simply go to refresh. Before I click on refresh, look at the cell, 2007, refresh. See how it changed to 2010? So this is another beautiful thing. If your import data or your input data keeps on changing and you do not want to keep on importing it again and again and every time, so this is one option. Simply click on refresh and it will refresh your data. So like I said, table is a very, very powerful feature. This is really amazing. Try using tables, and trust me, you will never ever use just normal formatted data. So this was tables in details, right? The next thing that we will move on, it is again an important and powerful feature, which is called conditional formatting. Now, conditional formatting lets you highlight cells with a certain color, icons, data bars, etc. Now, depending on the certain rules based on the cell value, the feature can be accessed from the Home tab. So if you go to the Home tab, this is where the conditional formatting tab is, button is, and this is the styles group. This is where it is. Now we will understand this in detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the first button, which is highlight cell rules. Do you see this button, which is called greater than? Okay. Now, when you use greater than, that means greater than has to be used with numbers. If you use with text, then it works in a very different way. So if you use greater than a particular text, it will check the first character of that text, and then alphabetically, it will check if the next word is greater than or not. So apple, if you have apple, and if you have grapes, then grapes is greater than apple because G comes after A. So obviously, do not use greater than for text or alphanumeric or mix of text. Always use this for numbers. So let's go to a numeric column. Let's say NA sales. So here you can select the column, or rather, I would select the data like this. Let's make it more simple for you guys. I am going to delete everything below this. One moment, so that we can see what is happening. Now I've deleted the rest of the data. Only this much data is visible. So highlight this range. Do not highlight the header, just this data. Then click on conditional formatting. Let's do one more thing. I'm also going to clear the formats. Like I showed you previously, select the table and clear formats. So the formats are gone. And if you want, you can keep this as light blue. So you know this is the header. Select this range and then click on home, conditional formatting, highlight cell rules greater than. The moment you click on greater than, you will notice you get the greater than dialog box. Now, by default, it put a value here. Feel free to change that. So if you want to highlight any value which is greater than, let's say 20, and do 20. And Excel will give you a live preview of how your data will look like. Till the time you do not press OK, the changes will not be made. And you can choose what kind of color formatting you want. Yellow fill with dark yellow text, you can do that as well. Red text, you can do that as well. You can do a custom format if you want, let's say, a border around it. Okay, let's have a border. Okay, and I want a red. See how it changes to a red border. Okay, so I'm going to click on OK, and the formatting has been applied. So now if this value changes to 25, see what happens. You do not have to manually color the cells anymore. Okay, how do you delete extra cell? Just select the row and right click on it and click on delete. That's one way to do it. Otherwise, you can also press Control minus. That's the shortcut key. Okay, so moving on to the next option, which is less than and between. So these are few things which you can try. If you select this column, for example, and you click on highlight cells rule, similarly, just like we had greater than, you can do less than. Okay, so you put a value, any value less than a particular value will get highlighted. You choose the color, you choose the condition. Next is between. Till now, we were entering only one value, but in between, you can enter two values. You can say format cells that are between 8 and 22. Okay, so any value which is between 8 and 22 can get colored or highlighted as per your requirement. Similarly, you have equal to. In equal to, you can say, I want one value. Okay, if you say equal, and if you say a value which is 3.75, see, any value which is 3.75 in the column will get highlighted. And later on, if you manually change the value to 3.5, that will also get highlighted. Okay, moving on. A text that contains, now this is text. So we will come to this column now. And here, if you click on this and you click on text that contains Nintendo, if you do that, you can highlight that. So it's pretty simple. The highlight cells rule, the first one is very, very simple. You can simply click on greater than, less than, straightforward. At the bottom, you will notice more rules. So this more rules, when you click on this, does the same thing as what this new rule does. So if I click on more rules, you will notice new formatting rule. And if I click on new rule, it'll show you new formatting rule. I'll come to this in a moment. Okay. Always remember that whatever kind of data you select, based on that, this bottom part will change. Otherwise, the rest will remain the same. Okay, so the next option is top bottom rules. Now, top bottom rules always apply to numeric fields again. So if you select this and you come to top bottom rules, you can select top 10 items, top 10%, bottom 10 items, bottom 10%, above average, below average. So for example, if you've got sales figures, you have got employee performance values, a company would like to know what are my top 10 employees, who are the top, bottom 10 performers. So you can use conditional formatting to find that. Also, once the conditional formatting is applied, remember, you do not have to color the cells manually. It will automatically do it. And if you apply conditional formattings on a table, it's even more better, because if you import data, let's say next month, you do not need to manually color again, because table will remember and extend the formatting to the new data. So remember that tables will take care of that. That is why I chose to combine tables and conditional formatting together, so that tomorrow when you're working with your data, you will first of all convert that data to table, and then you will do rest of the stuff on that table. Whatever you do will be preserved. You do not have to create or format your data again and again. Right. So if let's say select top 10 items, you can choose this. So I don't know whether you're aware of, there's something which is called Pareto's rule, 80-20. Read up about it in case you do not know that. As data analyst, you will require to know that in the future. So if you want to show the 20%, you can use 20 here. Change this to 20. It'll show you the 20%. So remember that you can choose different options here. These are very straightforward. Top bottom rules and highlight cell rules are very, very simple. Okay. You can also use these values to, let's say, duplicate values. In case you want to find duplicate values, you can do that. Right. Coming to data bars. Okay, now data bars is very amazing stuff. You must have seen a lot of dashboards where the values are shown as bars like this. You can do that as well. Now, here is something which many really do not know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. Now this cell is formatted to show data bars. What if I do not want the values to show here? I just want the data bars. Don't worry, right click on the data, click on format cells. Yeah, we will cover format cells dialog box in one of the future videos. Go to custom, and here type semicolon. Okay, and click on OK. That's it. The data is gone. So here the value can be seen in the formula bar here on the top. Remember in the last session I explained about formula bars? So the value can be seen here, but in the cell it will not be shown. So if I change, this is what, 10.57. So if I go here and I change this to 10, see how the bar changes. So you can also show data bars to, let's say, highlight specific employees. Just by looking at the data bars, I can clearly see that this particular employee's performance is better than the other employee. Okay, so this is one way to do it. Right, moving on. So next is color scales. Just like we used data bars, we can also use color scales. Let's click on this, conditional formatting, color scales, and you select this. Again, if you do not want to show the data, right click on it, format cells, custom, colon. Data is gone. So this is again, you can choose. Now, if you want to, let's say, work with the different colors, I will show you how to do that, okay, in a short while. So let's go back. So this is how you use color scales, different gradients. Okay. Next comes your icon set. This is the most used option, the icon sets. Ever heard of traffic lights? So this is where you get the traffic lights, the 3 traffic lights. You can choose how to show your data. If you click on this is how your traffic lights come. So any values which are much lower will show in red, which are really good values will show you in green. So these are again used a lot. Yeah. Let's go back. You can also use up down arrows. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert so you can see this clearly. Like this. Wait. And then see. So choose what you want to show. Now let's go ahead and come to new rule. So when you click on new rule, okay, this has a lot of options. The first one is format all cells based on their values. Okay. So when you click on this and you click on OK, it will format on the values. The most important thing out of this is this one. I'll come to this in a moment. This is the most commonly used. People who are very familiar with formulas, they use this. I'll come to this in a moment. All right. Then you can also format cells that contain between. So this is the same as what we did highlight with or between. So you can choose cell value, specific text, between or not between or equal. Will do exactly what these two did. So this is not a problem. We'll come to new rules again. And this time I'm going to use a color scale. So here I was talking about the different gradients. Yeah, you can change that here. So if I want to use, let's say, a branding color of the company, which is blue, I can use that. And let's say a darker blue. Click on OK. See how you can use the gradients here. So this is the place where you use new rule to change the gradients. Now, if you look at the format style, it shows you 2 color scale, 3 color scale, data bars, and icon sets. So if you want to customize any of these, you can do that. Okay, so if I click on, let's say, icon sets, this is very important. Now, please pay attention here carefully because this you will be using a lot again. Now, when we added the icon sets like this, if I select this, or rather, I will first clear the formats here so that it doesn't disturb me. Right. Now I've selected this. When I was adding the traffic lights earlier, I just did icon sets and the traffic lights. Correct. This was the simple way to do it. Excel intelligently marked certain values as red, orange, or green. But okay, let's do this for a moment. Okay, now let's go back here and let's go to new rule. And in the format style, select icon sets. The moment you select icon sets, Excel asks you, how do you want to color the data? So what currently it is doing is any value, yeah, which is greater than, when the value is greater than equal to 67%. Now this is very confusing sometimes. Here you see 67, but the value here is 29. That's because it is percent. Change that to number. Okay. Similarly here, number. So sometimes you will notice that the values do not match. Don't worry, that's because of the type. So I say greater than equal to 20. Should be green. Okay. Then I have when value is less than 0 and greater than equal to a particular value, whatever you want to do. Select that. And when the value is less than 0, you don't want that. Okay. So change the values here. Whatever values you want, you can show the icons based on that. Similarly, if you go to data bar, similarly, you have automatic here. You can change that to highest value, number, percent, formula here. Okay, this is your homework. Okay, I want you to create traffic lights where any value which is greater than 10 is green. Any value which is between 5 and 10 is orange. Any value which is less than 5 is red. I want to see that. So this is your homework, guys. If you can do it, nothing like this. Okay, coming to data bars. Again, this also is what you have to do for me, but you will do this in the J column, which is the JP sales. So the traffic signals is for I column. The JP sales will have the data bars. This is again your homework. Okay. Here, choose lowest value, number, percent, formula, percentile, or automatic. I'll leave that choice to you. Okay, so if you select numbers, then you can set the values here. What should be the minimum number and what should be the maximum number? And whether you want to use a solid fill or you want to use a gradient fill. So if you say minimum value is 0, maximum value is, let's say, 25, and gradient fill, I want blue colors, I don't want borders. Or if you want borders, then select the color and click on OK. Do you see how these borders, these data bars, they change? Okay, I'm going to remove the, okay, I'm going to do it right now, but I'll explain this in a short moment. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to conditionally format using new rule, column I, using data bars. And I want you to set a minimum value, a minimum number. Right now you have percentage, formula, percentile. I want you to use number, a minimum number and a maximum number. Change the color as per your liking. And I want you to create a data bar. Okay, you can also show negative value and access. So if anything is in negative, the bar will show on the left side. Anything on the positive, show on the right side. So go ahead, change few values, change it to negative and format this. I want to see how it looks like. Right. Clear rules is again an important button. When you want to clear the rules from selected cells, which is the highlighted cells, you can click on clear rules from selected cells and it will remove the conditional formatting only from that range. The second option is clear rules from entire worksheet. So when you click on this button, all the conditional formatting in the entire worksheet is removed. Not only just the selection, but the entire worksheet. The third option is to clear rules from this table. When you use this option, why are you getting this option? Because your current selection is inside the table. When you click on this, the conditional formatting is removed only from the current table. So if there are, let's say, 4 tables and all 4 tables have conditional formatting, this will remove the conditional formatting only from the current table. Yeah. And the last one is clear rules from this pivot table. Obviously, this is not a pivot table. We will cover pivot tables later. When your selection is in a pivot table, then you can clear the rules from the pivot table as well. Okay. So one last one, manage rules. When you have manage rules, when you click on this, you get the conditional formatting rules manager. Here, you again get options, whether you want to work with the conditional formatting of the current selection or the worksheet, this table, or the entire sheet, which is sheet 1. If you have a different worksheet, then you can choose that as well. Here, you can create a new rule from here, which will bring back this new formatting dialog box. Or you can directly do it from the conditional formatting dropdown. Right, so new rule is fine. The second is to edit the rule. So if you want to edit this particular rule, highlight this rule, click on edit rule, and it will take you to this edit the rule description. Here you can change the color, do whatever changes you want. Okay, so you do not have to recreate the conditional formatting rule. And in case you want to delete a particular rule, go ahead, just click on that rule and click on delete rule. You can also duplicate the rule. Now you may ask, why do I need to duplicate the rule if the rule is already there? That is because if you duplicate the rule, you can go ahead and change the range so that you do not have to recreate the rule at a different location. So if you want, I can make this K and the rules now apply to K. So if I go here and if I click on this, see now K is selected. If I go here and if I select this, I is selected. So remember, whenever you want to edit something, you can go to manage rules and you can edit your conditional formatting rules. You do not need to delete and recreate the rules. Okay, so this is pretty simple, conditional formatting and tables. You will be using this a lot. A quick recap. Today we covered tables, how to format the tables. We learned about a lot of options which were there in the table design tab. We also learned about how to refresh the table so that we do not have to create the tables again and again. In case you do not want the tables to remain connected, click on the unlink button. This is the properties which again you do not need to use it as of now. I will cover this at a later stage. But unlink is something, what will happen is if you click on unlink, this will permanently remove the query definition from the worksheet. And then if you click on refresh, it will not refresh the data. So do not unlink the data unless it is required. We also saw different table style options, and we also saw different table styles that we can use to format our data. We also learned about conditional formatting, and we also learned that if you use conditional formatting on a table, if you refresh the data, then you do not have to reapply the conditional formatting. That's the beauty of conditional formatting. If you add new data to the existing range, then the conditional formatting will automatically highlight it. Now, let me show you something which is interesting, which I'll put it as a points to think about. Okay, we will cover this in the future. I was not planning to cover this in this session, but let me quickly show you. So new rule, use formula to format the cells. So what I'll do is first, I will select the range. Then I'll say new rule and the formula. Okay, and then I will type equal to mod. I will not explain this. I'm going to show this to you right now. Row, comma, 2. And I'll click on OK. What happened? Oh, the condition. I have to clear the rules first. One moment. Manage rules. Let me delete this. All of them. Remove this. This. Okay, no format set. Edit rule, format, and I use, let's say, yellow. And I say OK. And I say OK. Apply. Did you see what happened? It created banded rows using a formula. So you can use conditional formatting to do all this kind of amazing stuff. Right now, I use the mod and the row function to highlight this. You can also highlight an entire row based on a value on a particular column. So tomorrow, if let's say your boss says, can you please highlight all the rows where the sales is less than, let's say, particular amount, then yes, you can do that using a formula and in the conditional formatting. So I will cover this when we talk about formulas. This is an amazing thing which a lot of people use. So this is tables and conditional formatting in short. Remember to do your homework for the data bars and the icon sets. I would love to see that. And if you have any questions, please share it with me.